As you all will get used to, before we get started, the very first thing we do is go over a couple of important issues. If anybody needs to take a break, it's out the door and to the right, and there are restrooms down that corridor to the right. If for any reason we have to leave this building under any emergency situation, our route is to go out, back down the steps, out the front door, hang a left, and then go into the parking area behind the building. Luckily, we haven't had to do that yet, but it's important to go over that. My name's Philip Chouquette. I know a lot of you, and it's been great to meet the ones that I just met earlier today. We are live streaming. And for anyone that is listening or watching on Route29Solutions.org, you can go to the Panel and Meetings tab, and you'll see a new tab for the Hydraulic Planning Advisory Panel, and the agenda for today's meeting, as well as the presentation that we'll review is there. We'll start off for some introductions, and because this is the first meeting of the Hydraulic Planning Advisory Panel, we take a little bit longer with the introductions, and like for each panel member to just give a little brief statement about your role in the community. Chip, we'll start with you. Alex, you're right here.
Thank you. Chip Boyles, I'm the director of the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission, and also director for the Charlottesville Albemarle Metropolitan Planning Organization, the MPO. Have also been sitting on the advisory panel for the Route 29 Solutions project delivery, and we're just charged with preparing the long-range transportation plan for our MPO area for any federal expenditures for transportation issues.
Thank you, Chip. Morgan?
My name is Morgan Butler. I'm a senior attorney with the Southern Environmental Law Center here in Charlottesville. Like Chip, I'm also sitting on the Route 29 Project Delivery Advisory Panel right now. SCLC has been involved with promoting transportation solutions for Route 29 for quite some time, even before I arrived. Really pleased to see the progress that's finally been made over the past few years, and see this panel as a great opportunity to continue that progress. So we're happy to be here and looking forward to working with everybody.
Vito Chetta, I'm an architect and real estate developer. Live fairly close to this intersection at Out of Bounds, which we developed. Love the county, love the area, want to help if I can help.
Thank you. I know Kathy is on her way, but Mark?
Mark Graham, excuse me. I'm the Director of Community Development for Albemarle County. Like Morgan and Chip, I have also served on the Route 29 Advisory Panel and been doing this for, I had to go back and look, almost 3 years now since we started with this whole thing. I have to tell on Philip here now. And I shared this with Philip, so, because back 3 years ago when they were looking at this, and Philip went in May of 2014 to the Commonwealth Transportation Board to talk about the Route 29 solutions. And one of the questions that was out there is, why RIO and not hydraulic? And just quoting from Philip here, RIO is a straightforward project, hydraulic is not. Delivering RIO flawlessly is a must-do before embarking on a more complex intersection project. Hydraulic is a complex project. Developing hydraulic as a project may involve, I believe it will involve, a close look at the 250-29 interchange as well. Robust business and public involvement and effective communication are vital to further assessing hydraulic as part of the statewide project prioritization process. So I guess that's why we're here.
That's why we're here. That's why we're here. Kathy?
Hi.
I know.
I'm sorry, just introduce ourselves?
Yes.
I'm Kathy Galvin. I'm Charlottesville City Councilor, and I've had quite a lot of experience in the land use transportation consulting world before I became a city councilor. So I'm very excited about being part of this group. I'm also on the Metropolitan Planning Organization, so as a city representative.
Alex?
Good afternoon. My name is Alexander Ikefuna. I'm the Director of Neighborhood Development Services for City of Charlottesville. And as some of you may know, we have a Hillsdale extension project going on right now. And I think this particular project will be a very complimentary one to that particular Hillsdale extension project. I'm glad to be here.
I'm Kirk Kiesecker. I'm the chair of the city's planning commission. I'm an architect in town, work with BRW Architects. I've been on the planning commission for about 7 years. And during that time, the word small area plans have come up about 80,000 times. So I'm very excited to be part of one that actually has some traction and will make great things happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Diantha McKeel. I'm an Albemarle County supervisor. I have had lots of experience driving through the hydraulic intersection and a lot of frustration at times with the hydraulic intersection, so I'm thrilled to be here. I do represent Hydraulic Road, Georgetown Road, Barracks Road, that area. That certainly is in the county. And I'm looking forward to the challenge, Mark, of getting this figured out.
Thank you.
I am not John O'Connor. I'm the alternate Mark Tootin from O'Connor Capital Partners in New York City. We acquired the the shops at Stonefield not too long ago, and I'm down here actually handling some matters over there today, and John couldn't make it, so I'm sitting in, but we appreciate being on the panel and all the work obviously a lot of people have been involved with for many years, so we look forward to contributing as best we can.
Thank you. John did contact me early this morning, and his flight was canceled. And Mark, I'm glad you could make it.
Thank you.
Chuck.
Chuck Rodkins with Great Eastern Management Company, and I'm here with an institutional memory and hope to keep everybody honest.
We may have to set Chuck on the wall. No, that's good. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Alan Taylor with Riverbend Development, local developer, have a handful of projects in and around town. So see a lot of familiar faces around here, and the big one that is interested in this intersection is where you're planning to redevelop the Kmart property, located right across the street from the O'Connor guys these days. So looking forward to doing that, and looking forward to being part of this conversation.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you very much. We will take a breath until Dale gets seated. We're just doing a little brief introduction. Dale?
Yeah, so my name is Dale Sanders, and I'm from the Holiday Inn on Emmett Street, and I'm looking forward to participating in this process because obviously we've got concerns for our guests and how people access us. Additionally, we're concerned about traffic flow and pedestrian traffic too, so glad to be a part of this.
Very good. Thank you. A couple of notes before we get to the technical support team. As you leave today, it's important that you take a right at the bottom of McCormick as you meet McCormick and Alderman, because right now there are no left turns permitted. Law enforcement has been pretty active there, so as you're heading out and you approach that light at Alderman and McCormick, hang a right.
Good to know.
Or, I've done my part. If you would like to retain paper copies of the presentation, we're happy to print them and happy to keep them in a notebook for you. All you have to do is think about that, and I'll remind you of these things in a little note, and you can let me know. The other thing is, if you would like to access wireless during the meeting, we can get a Guest of Virginia, I think is what it's called. We can get a password for you at each meeting, but I would need to know Rudy, we need name, first, last name, email address, and a phone number. But I will remind you about that too, because wireless is available. I look back, and the first panel met on March 27th of 2014. That was the very first meeting of the very first panel, and at that time, we had a project that had been around for a long time, had gone away. We had a couple of $100 million in round numbers that we were offered the opportunity to use, and 3 years later, we've got 2 projects completely finished, 2 more that'll probably wrap up before July, and then the Hillsdale, which should be finished by October, the end of October of this year. So a lot has happened over the last 3 years. This process has been an important part of it. There was not always agreement, goodness knows, but there was a honest effort on everybody's part to keep things moving to the best possible outcomes. And I think that has served the county well, the city well, and certainly has served the Commonwealth well in terms of the lessons learned that VDOT has taken away, and all participants, actually. So I'm looking forward to see where this goes on this study. We've got a technical. Go a couple up. The panel is in the process is supported by a technical team. We could have made 3 pages here, but I just kind of have the key folks that have been an important element of keeping things moving forward. And I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself in the order there for a moment, and then we'll catch everybody else. So maybe stand up and let everybody see who you are.
I'm Dave Covington. I'm the program manager for VDOT for the Route 29 Solutions Program. I've been involved with, obviously, all the projects up to date ever since basically June of 2014. So I guess sometimes you can blame some things on me if you don't like what you see out there, but as Phil mentioned, we've learned a lot through this process, we at VDOT, and have kind of changed some of our processes statewide, or in the process of changing some of those to more mimic the public involvement that we've had here. So my goal is to help us shepherd this entire program through, including hydraulic, Hillsdale South, that combined combination. So I'm very happy to be here working with everybody to move these projects forward.
Thanks, Dave. John Lynch is the Culpeper District Administrator. VDOT has 9 districts. Culpeper District is one of those. John is the top guy here in the Culpeper District that Charlottesville is part of. John's on vacation, but you'll usually see him here at our panel meetings.
I'm Joel Denunzi. I'm the resident engineer for the Charlottesville residency. Under the Culpeper District and John Lynch, we have 3 residencies: Charlottesville, Warrenton, the newly opened last year, Louisa. So we each have a geographical area. So I'm the main point of contact for anything within Albemarle County, Greene County, and Madison County for anything VDOT related. My office is over in Shadwell, just about a mile off the interstate, 250 and 64. We oversee all maintenance operations. We have 6 area headquarters throughout 4 in Albemarle County, 1 in Greene, and 1 in Madison that we do direct maintenance activities out of there. We also have engineering staff at my office that oversees small projects, helps in development of the larger projects that we're seeing in the area, and we have land development staff that works with the counties for any proposed land development activity, and we're also responsible for any permitting within VDOT or secondary road right-of-ways in those 3 counties.
And for plowing snow and keeping ice on the street. Thanks, Joel. Lou Hatter.
I'm Lou Hatter. I'm the communications manager for VDOT for the Route 29 Solutions project. I've been down here working in Charlottesville with Dave and the rest of the project team since the summer of 2014. We are located right now out near the Rio Road project, so we are right in the midst of all the work that's going on, and we anticipate to continue to be in this area. So I'm the point person for public contacts. Everybody's got my phone number and email address and everything, so if you need anything, or if any of the folks out there who are watching, members of the public, any questions can be directed to me. If I don't know the answer, I work, as I say, very closely with Dave and the rest of the project team. If I don't know the answer, I will certainly get it to you, and we will get it back to you. So we are looking forward to working very closely. We anticipate continuing the same sort of public outreach and public communications that we did with the projects that are going on now. So please give me a call or shoot me an email if you have any questions or need anything.
Thanks, Lou. Lou burned a lot of shoe leather over the last couple of years in and out of the businesses that were affected by the RIO project. And I think Lou walking into those businesses and becoming Lou Hatter and not just VDOT was very important, not only to the execution of that project, but to making sure those businesses were heard and their interests were addressed before and during construction. So when Lou says contact him if you have questions, do it. Take him up on that. Thanks, Lou. Jitendra Ramchandani is going to be a technical team member from the Department of Rail and Public Transportation to make sure that we have a transit rep available on the technical team. He wrote me last night and had a prior commitment and was not able to be here today, but we'll be seeing Jitendra or someone from DRPT at future meetings. We also have some consulting support on the technical teams. And Sal?
My name is Sal Musser. I'm a senior land planner with Kinley Horn out of our Richmond office. These days I'm spending a couple days every week in Charlottesville. I've been a visitor to the Charlottesville area for over 30 years. My wife's an employee at UVA Hospital here, so we know the territory very well. I feel honored to be working on one of only 80,000 small area plans that you've looked at. I feel pretty special. We have a large team around us of planners and transportation planners and engineers that will certainly be supporting us. And Carl Tixbury is with me today. Will be integrally involved on the transportation side as well. And let you introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is Carl Tixbury of Kinley Horn. I'm out of the Virginia Beach office. I'm a transportation planner and traffic engineer. I'm fortunate to be working up here for probably about 14 years. I served as the project manager to UVA traffic and transportation planning. So I've been in a fair number of public settings, back when David Newman had a pretty aggressive program and getting out to the public with those projects and such. I'll be supporting Sal as we're testing the land use and looking at that internal network and what all that means. I also serve VDOT in the Transportation Mobility and Planning Division. We have two different regions. Paul's project manager to one to the north and the 5 districts to the south I represent. So we've been serving in that capacity for about 10 years.
Paul?
Thank you. My name is Paul Prideaux. I'm also an engineer and planner by trade, and I was involved in the first Rio Road panel in this room from the very beginning. So the guys to my right are going to be working on, and we'll talk about that today, the land use part of this exercise. And of course, land use generates transportation demand. So my part, which is mentioned as phase 2, will be more of the focus on the transportation needs resulting from that land use change. And you notice I use the word transportation, not traffic, because it's more than just autos. It's bikes and pedestrians and transit. So that's what's very important, I think.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks. Debbie?
Hi, I'm Debbie Messina. I work with Philip, the Philip A. Chiquette Company. My role is to help support this panel as well as support Philip, as I did in the first 2 panels. Another role is also to assist Lou in communications efforts.
It won't take you long to figure out that Debbie's my wife, so. And the only other employee of the facilitation. So, let's catch the Chuck. Chuck.
Chuck Proctor. I work in the Culver District Planning Office, also in the point of contact for all smart scale projects.
I was on the first technical team for the first panel, and I'm down here to support this project and hopefully get some good analysis and get some good ideas and concepts and something to fix this problem. I've been part of this area for 15 years now, so a lot of experience and time working to try to figure out some of these situations. Hopefully we'll get something good out of the process.
Thanks, Chuck. Thanks. You have a good technical support around you for both the land use as well as the transportation planning piece. Any questions so far about the role of the technical team? Or they'll be here. You'll see most of these folks every meeting, and they'll be doing a lot of work in between meetings. Okay. Back in, I guess it was December, maybe November, the Metropolitan Planning Organization sent a letter to Aubrey Lang, the Secretary of Transportation, and requested that some money that was parked on hydraulic and the southern extension of Hillsdale be moved up, be accelerated and made available for a study to consider land use and transportation. It's a little different than what we started off on 3 years ago, to consider land use and transportation around the hydraulic intersection area. And the Secretary said okay, and bumped $1 million up into the current fiscal year and $1 million into fiscal 2018. But it's important that while the Secretary bumped that money up, it's not with any preconceived conclusions. We're not here to build Project X. The study is being done in 2 phases. The first phase being the small area plan, the land use planning piece, not for the corridor, but for a small area that we'll talk about some boundaries for later. The second piece being transportation or mobility solutions to support the results of the small area plan. And when the Secretary formed this panel, as he did before, he wrote out a charge and asked me to share this with you for your charge, to provide general advice and input to the City of Charlottesville, Albemarle County, VDOT, and the Commonwealth Transportation Board regarding future land use and mobility improvements in the general area near the Hydraulic Road and Route 29 intersection. Pretty simple, but important. General advice. We're not looking for you all to figure out all the technical issues, although you're going to have opportunities to comment and provide input on them. But he is very aware that these decisions are in the hands of the locality. Certainly land use. Those decisions are in the hands of the city and the county, and with the new smart scale or the transportation prioritization process, if there is a desire to move any transportation improvements forward, they would bubble up through the city and the county and the MPO and result in an application, a smart scale application to go into the pot to compete for state monies. That is now on a every 2-year cycle, these smart scale applications. So the timing of our work and the planning of our work is set up to be ready for a smart scale application, if that's the path we take, in the summer of 2018. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. This year, I think there were $7 billion worth of applications for $1 billion. Something like that. I think that's what it was this year. So it's competitive. The smart scale process is something that probably at the local level you all are pretty familiar with. CHIPS. I think, Chip, you have prepared many of those applications that have moved forward in the last 2 cycles. But the important thing here is no preconceived solutions. These are really decisions in your hands, even though it is a considerable amount of state money that is supporting the work. Does that make sense? Okay. We are going to do this work, again, different than the last 3 years. The last 3 years we did transportation planning, engineering, construction, in and out. This is different. We are starting with the land use planning function, land use planning piece that Kimley Horn, Sal, and his team will support VDOT as the technical consultant for that part. We decided to use 2 different consultants, one for the land use planning and one for the transportation planning piece, so that there wouldn't be any unintended biases that went from one to the other. Not that these guys would ever be biased, but I think this keeps it a little bit more at an arm's length. Having said that, though, there will certainly be working cooperatively and collaborating with one another. It won't be Sal gets up to the end of his and hands something to Paul, and Paul starts off on day one. But they do have different charges. So there will be consultant support for the technical team. Those phases will overlap to assure that we're not losing any knowledge, or it'd just be much more efficient this way. Plus, there's going to be feedback. I mean, as we talk about land use options, and Kimley Horn is working on those, they'll be collaborating with Paul's team at Baker to see how different transportation solutions might support those options. I know this is redundant, but land use decisions belong to the city and the county, not to the Commonwealth. Transportation solutions, whatever they might be, are going to need to float up as well from the localities. Any questions on that? All right. This is the small area. As most of you all know, Chip worked at the Secretary's request. Chip was kind enough to really pull together this panel. The only guidance we gave him was the number 12. You know, don't come in with 11 and don't ask for 13. Let's stick with 12 folks. But Chip also did some work to develop the suggested boundaries of the small area. I'm terrible with colors, but I'm told this is red and this is blue. So generally speaking, on the north and the south, Greenbrier Drive and Whitewood, the interchange, the bypass, and Route 29, Mickey Drive and Hillsdale on the east, Hydraulic, Berkshire, Cedar Hill on the west. Here's the Hydraulic intersection. Rough numbers, about 300 acres in the city and about 300 acres in the county. Charlottesville is to the south and east of the blue line, and Albemarle County is to the north and, well, not all of it, since you have this little piece over here. Charlottesville is here, Albemarle County is there. So that clear reason for having both government localities represented on this panel. Are we married to that boundary? No. Can it get much bigger? Probably not. I mean, we just need to stay within the context of a small area plan. We don't need to completely lock this down today, but if we're going to tinker with it some, we need to tinker in the next 14 days, and because these guys are ready to go to work, and having this boundary is important. Chip, did you want to?
Yeah, it may just be worth noting that the boundaries, the proposed boundaries, we really focused on commercial and multifamily. If you saw this in more of a Google type map, you would see that we tried to follow some of the lines, getting multifamily residential in, but excluding the single family residential, which is less likely to change as the commercial and multifamily. And of course, there are some exceptions to it in there, but that was the driving force. As well as some of the areas that we knew would impact the traffic decisions, such as bringing the line to the south of the 250 bypass just a little bit, and making sure that we took the Rugby and 250 bypass intersection within the boundaries. And then some of natural barriers on the easternmost, that's a stream that runs through there, so we use that as a boundary.
Any initial thoughts on this?
Philip, from an institutional standpoint, and this is not directed to the land area as such, but past construction on 29 has really had an impact on Georgetown Road. And it seems to me from the transportation planning aspect, Georgetown Road ought to be included. Anthony, you want to speak to that?
I would not disagree with you.
I'm sorry?
I think you're right. I wouldn't disagree. That could vary. And that wouldn't require a huge.
That's not a big
No,
change here.
It's not a big change.
Okay. Any other thought?
Yes, we've had communications with some of the residents that are in the single-family neighborhoods, off of, well, further east of Nicky Drive. And even though the land use may not change, there is a strong desire to have connection to what is hoped will become not only a regional center, but actually a center that local residents can go and enjoy.
Okay.
So, be it pedestrian access or biped access, so that would be my only concern, is that the boundary to the right and to the east, if that could be picked up to be mid-block, say, between Brandywine and Keith Valley Road, so that you're at least grabbing, following property line in mid-block to hook up to the northernmost tip. And that way, we are acknowledging that community needs to be integrated in the planning. Again, because we've gotten correspondence. In fact, Alex and I are going to be having a meeting with members of the neighborhood association to talk about this very thing.
Okay. All right.
Phil, one thing to remember is that just because this is the land use area plan boundary, that doesn't mean that we can't have transportation improvements outside of this boundary that support the land use inside this boundary. For instance, Georgetown Road. Sidewalk.
Point well taken, sure. Yeah. It's just that the public, as Diane, I'm sure, sympathize with when they see a boundary, they think that's it.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. People are going to remember this picture, and they're looking at it now. So, but we've got, like I said, as long as we get this locked down over the next couple weeks. Any other comments on the boundary itself? I think Chip, you and I can work, or Sal, you and I can work. We'll adjust these limits. I'll shoot a draft back out to you, and because it's fine for us to do some communicating over email. We're not voting, and I know this rubs people the wrong way when I say it. We're not here to reach consensus. By that I mean we're not looking for unanimous consent. We can, but we need to be very careful about being transparent with our deliberations. But it's fine for us to do some work via email, and then when we reach decisions, everything, all of our information will be documented and archived on the website. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. So Georgetown Road, perhaps pull this eastern boundary a little further east to capture some of those residential.
Make one little comment, because
yes, ma'am.
Even if there may be dash lines, so that you signal that they're not hard and fast, but they're going to be looked at, and there are implications.
Sure.
I just thought that, you know.
We'll either make them all solid or all dash, because I've been down that road too. I don't want to be, I'm in a dash, you're in a solid. But I keep looking at Chip, but Chip was kind enough to be the technical team to help get us started. Any other thoughts on those boundaries? And I really appreciate your insight there. Okay. We'll talk just a bit about the phases, and if you have questions or you want some more detail on any of these issues, our technical team can help fill in the blanks. But as we said, the first phase is going to be the land use planning piece, or the small area plan piece. Some goals, or at least initial goals at this point, to develop a common vision for the character, form, and intensity of the development within the area. Develop a conceptual land use plan to guide growth and urban form, a plan that the city council can consider, that the board of supervisors can consider, and the last bullet is make sure people can look at it and understand what you're talking about. Something that's illustrative, that's graphic, that you all are, particularly those of you, all of you all, are familiar with what these conceptual planning documents look like, and we want something that is easy for the people to relate to. We can add to these goals. If you'd like, we can have Sal expand on them a bit, if you would like. If you have questions, you can give me a holler, and we'll get you answers. Okay, go to the next one. Thank you. So what are some things that the land use planning team will be doing? Certainly, it makes sense looking at existing conditions and trends. What do things look like now? Where are they headed based on what's out there? Very important that we mentioned is that Sal and Paul will be collaborating frequently. Well, here's how our land use plan is taking shape. How might that be driving transportation improvements? What we don't want to do is get at the end of the first phase and say, well, because we made this decision in the first phase, now here's what you have to do to support it with transportation solutions. We don't want that to happen. We want that collaborative discussion going on during the time. The technical team, the consulting team will be here with one or two folks at each work session to hear what you're talking about, to help us present some information so that they're continually refining their work. And conduct an advisory panel charrette. And I would like you to just spend a minute on that.
So the charrette process is a very collaborative process of bringing people together and more hands-on. so that we are exchanging input really between each other and getting our hands dirty. So we're actually drawing, sketching, a lot of board work in terms of writing issues and kind of vision statements. It's really, the term is a French term that meant, I think, out of the back of a truck or the back of a cart was, I think, is the history of that. So it's really the way we do these changes. So we will work with you to set up the details of the charrette and the types of activities that occur. But essentially, it'll be like this meeting, only a lot more exciting, because we won't be sitting in circles like this and staring at each other. We're going to actually be putting our hands on the same pieces of paper and exchanging information. So it's very collaborative. Again, we'll work out the details as we move closer to that in terms of, with input from you, in terms of how you like to work and the expectations you would have coming out of that. So we do a lot of these. Everyone's a little bit different depending on sort of the personality of the groups we're working with. It's an extremely educated group in terms of matters of land use and land planning, so we'll deal with this charrette formatted a little differently than we would for maybe another group. But that's sort of the big picture. It's when we come out of that, there will be a lot of drawings, a lot of probably text and language and vision statements and aspirational ideas is what we like to walk away with from those types of activities.
Any questions for Sal? Phil, just one addition, I think, is that we believe, and this is to yet to be decided, but that this will be the opportunity to have both Albemarle counties and City of Charlottesville planning commissions and design committees involved as a team. So they can come in because, I mean, this is a fast-moving process. Having only been in Charlottesville a short time, you all spend a lot of time in the planning processes. This is a short time frame for a lot of work, but I think this will give that opportunity for the planning commissions and design committees to be hands-on in this process, which I'm positive they want to be.
That'll be refreshing.
We hope to keep it that way. So what do we get at the end of phase one? A small area conceptual land use plan, which is really more of a policy document, a policy guide for the anticipated land use in the area. Core focus, I got to rely on what Sal told me these each were. The core focus area illustrative plan is going to be more focused on the immediate hydraulic Route 29 area inside the smaller area. Is that right, Sal? That'll be a little more specifically focused on the immediate area around the intersection. The small area plan report, which will be the report out of the document with the text and the illustrations, and then an abstract, executive summary, whatever you choose to call it, something that's easy for the public to consume, something that you can carry around to meetings with you. So those will be the primary outputs. Now, what happens with those? I guess all of this should be conditioned with, if you want to, you will have a plan to consider for adoption at the city and county level. CHIP at this point, or the MPO, probably more appropriate to say the PDC, the technical arm of the MPO, whatever land use plans are adopted out of this will get put into the regional transportation model, your traffic model, that will be used in the future as you reassess and develop your new long-range transportation plan.
Which is being kicked off right now.
Yeah, right. So this is a big deal to have this information to put into. Land use is at the foundation of all transportation models. The land use isn't good, the numbers coming out are more suspect than they normally are anyway.
Question on that. if I
Yes.
could. Are you anticipating, is going for phase one, for phase two, to have this adoption done before you start on phase two?
Don't have to. You can think through that for a bit. Let's ask another question here maybe, is what would happen if there is no agreement on a land use plan? We probably would be stubbing our toe trying to move into phase two. Now, if things look like they are on a path to be considered and adopted, then I think that's fine. I think that's certainly fine. There are processes that have to take place and the city and the county aren't necessarily operating on our schedule. It would be nice to see everything, though, moving to a little sharper point so that you would be ready to have the discussion to adopt the plan. You'd be ready to have the discussion at the county.
And I'm not trying to play semantics here, but adoption of the plan is one thing, but endorsement of the concept is another thing.
Maybe endorsement of the concept's a better term here.
Right, because adoption, we typically think we have the implementation, an implementation plan, which would really require phase two
I see.
to be able to do that. And we're not going to really have that implementation plan until you have phase two complete.
Good point.
And I think that's all that would be needed to get it into the long-range transportation plan, which is then needed to apply for SmartScape.
Yeah, okay. We'll refine those words. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
This is again a step ahead to the transportation portion, but I don't want to lose track of this. We need to be able to see the impact of the Best Buy ramp and what that has had on the traffic in the 29 area. We also need to see what the impact of Hillsdale is going to be. And that's going to be pretty substantial. And we're not going to know that during the time of this panel. So I'd like for the technical people to be considered whether it would be appropriate to use the estimates that VDOT had come up with and the city had come up with for traffic on Hillsdale and what impact that'll have on the intersection as we get in, perhaps somewhat to the land use portion, but particularly for the transportation.
Okay, very good points. Good points, Joe. Yeah. Okay. Alan? Yes, sir.
Don't mean to beat a dead horse here, but and I think this would either be for Mark or Alex, but Mark, to your point, if the county did endorse it, or Alex, if the city did endorse whatever the plan was, and then there was some kind of process that happened after that, what action is anticipated to be taken on a land use perspective? Would it be some kind of comprehensive plan change? Is that what it would be?
Yeah, that's why I was hung up on that word of adoption. I was thinking in terms of a comprehensive plan amendment, which would include a lot of the transportation elements and implementation plan.
Implementation strategy.
The good thing on the city's part is the city is currently in the process of starting its comprehensive plan. So it's going to dovetail with this, and this is the timing is excellent.
It's good, huh? Okay, very good. So the outcome we're looking at this point is the endorsement of the plan. Endorsement's a good word. Okay, all right. Mark, thank you, as always. What about the opportunities for public input during the first phase? These are some opportunities for public input. The Route29solutions.org website is being was updated a little bit yesterday. It's undergoing some more updates. It'll continue two methods, actually, three, I guess, of public input. There'll be sort of a running dialogue if folks want to engage in that, and that's something that's on the website that anybody that looks at the website can see a comment from somebody that registered one, and a response. If the response is appropriate, that can get pretty exciting to read every now and then. People can get comments directly into Lou. There's also a kind of a sign up on the website where you can get continual feedback. You can submit a email comment in through another area of the website. And now this is just on the VDOT side. I mean, the county and the city may be doing similar things. The advisory panel members. I mean, you know, your names are out there. You're posted on the website. You may get phone calls. You may get emails from folks who want to channel a comment in through you, and there'll be an opportunity at each meeting for you to tell us what public comments you may have received. Twitter, there's the Route 29 Solutions Twitter handle. For those of you that are into that, it would be great if you followed it, and if you see a comment out there from Route 29 Solutions, hit that little retweet button and pump it on. It just helps. As we've learned through the last 3 years, there are a lot of people getting their information about what's gone on Route 29 Solutions through Twitter and through Facebook. There will be a couple of different rounds of public meetings, a little bit more of the formal setting of public meetings for input on the future land use plan, as well as feedback on the conceptual land use plan, all as part of phase 1. And then I expect you're going to have people showing up at your planning commission meetings, or your city council and board of supervisors meetings, who are going to have something to say about what's going on here. So there's a lot of opportunities and you're going to see this list repeated about 3 times in the next few minutes. The point being, there are a lot of opportunities for public input, and those are some examples of those. Okay. The schedule for phase 1. Couple of things happening, and right now we're still looking at the charrette sometime in April. I think that would probably be the latter part of April. Existing condition summary, and at each one of these major milestones, this information, you'll be updated on this. This is where we are. This is what we've collected. You'll have a chance to see these things as they're being developed. We're not going to sit here and meet twice a month and then wait for somebody to come at the end and say, here's what we've done. There'll be a lot of Sal, you want to talk a little bit about third-party inputs?
Yes, so this gets back to the idea that Philip was talking about in terms of the iterative process, really, between our groups. So as we're doing the land use planning components, there's sort of an internal transportation component. We can't talk about land use planning without talking some transportation, and so Carl and his group will help us do that internally. But before we get too far down the road, as Philip said, then we're going to be working with Paul and just sort of testing some of our ideas. I mean, planners love to draw really cool pictures that sometimes the transportation is just not going to support. If we were in a 600-acre cornfield, we would draw it just the way you wanted it and then say, here, make the roads handle this. But this is not the environment we live in. So really that third party is intended to talk about this iterative process between our firms, which will be very collaborative. And we'll kind of pick the right times when if we get further along the land use planning process a little quicker than we thought, then we won't wait. We'll call Paul and say, hey, we need some input. We need to start talking. But that's what that bullet really is talking to.
Thank you very much. Then a couple of public meetings, May, August timeframe. Phase 1 complete the end of September. That date's pretty important in terms of getting to the point where you have a plan that you could endorse. Because at this point, we need to be making some decisions about how are we going to launch into the transportation planning phase. Got to be able to have a fairly good idea about land use so we can make sure that the mobility solutions that are being considered are supporting the land use that's anticipated. So you'll find me pushing pretty hard on this schedule to make sure that things are moving forward. Which doesn't mean we cut out your opportunity for comment. It just means we have to try not to revisit comments more than once, to the best of our ability. So we're at the end of phase 1, and we talk now a little bit about phase 2. A similar set of goals: engage the panel, the public, work collaboratively with the land use team to develop reasonable multimodal transportation solutions. What might they be? I don't know. Anything you can imagine at this point: pedestrian, bike, car, transit, combination of those, whatever makes sense to support the land uses that we've been anticipating. We'll start to get. We're not doing NEPA. We're not doing an EIS, an environmental impact statement at this stage, but we need to start getting an understanding of potential environmental effects at a pretty high level, but begin to understand them, because understanding them is going to help evaluate alternatives. Obviously, understand the potential cost. It would be nice to, with whatever we end up with, it would be nice to end up with something that's affordable, that could at least have a good shot at being implemented. And then, again, present the results in a way that the public can readily understand what we're talking about. Go ahead. So, what's phase 2? What kind of methodologies? Some of the same. A baseline. What are the existing conditions to form a baseline? How are we going to know if the suggested solutions are making anything better? You've got to understand the baseline. Important to collect some travel demand data, origin, destination, and safety data. These are going to be questions you're going to have. I mean, you're going to be looking and saying, well, hey, are we improving, are we reducing congestion? Prove it to us. Are we making levels of service better? What does safety look like out there now? How do we think it might look in the future? The continuing collaboration between the teams, developing these multimodal transportation recommendations, looking at high-level estimates of environmental effects, the same with cost, and then starting to piece together toward the end of this work some ideas for possible smart-scale applications, transportation prioritization applications. So, in a nutshell, that's the methodologies that will be employed in phase 2. Okay? So what do we get at the end of this? Well, we get a handful of solutions, or however there might be, of mobility solutions that respond to the small area plan, some sort of implementation plan, looking to the next round of smart scale applications, which will be summertime. So I tend to think more in terms of quarters, into the second quarter, first, third quarter of 2018. A report and a package that wraps everything up, and again, an abstract, something that says, if you don't want to read the bigger book, here's a couple of pages that you can look at and get the gist of it. So what approvals and recommendations would happen out of here? Based on how this area has been working, we would expect that if there is going to be a smart scale application, it would be prepared and endorsed at the MPO level. Be prepared and endorsed at the MPO level. Now, VDOT and the state do have a role. Once that smart scale application is submitted into VDOT, and there's a very, maybe sophisticated, it's not the necessary word, but there's a process for doing this. For submitting the smart scale application, VDOT and teams inside VDOT evaluate and score those applications, and then they are presented to the Commonwealth Transportation Board, and the Commonwealth Transportation Board has the final decision-making authority about whether or not to fund a state-funded. If there's going to be state and federal funds, it will go through this smart scale process. And they're the body of people that would allocate money to it. And I'm sure we'll see Allison DeTonk at some of our meetings. Allison DeTonk is your representative on the Commonwealth Transportation Board, and she's kept a close, really a close eye on this process for the last 3 years.
Can we
Yes.
back up
Back.
just a second? And I'm kind of churning in my head, so apologize if it doesn't
No problem.
quite organized. I see the CDB, the Commonwealth Transportation Board there with looking at smart scale, but what we're doing here is part of phase 1 and phase 2. It's also comprehensive plan amendments, possibly for both the county and the city, which also have to be reviewed by the Commonwealth Transportation Board at some point. And just trying, and that kind of brought me back to the primary outcomes for phase 2. We're talking about the multimodal transportation solutions. We're trying to make sure that works. But there's also this statewide priority for Route 29, and trying to make sure I understand how that's being captured in here as well.
Say that last part again.
Route 29 serves two masters.
Right.
I mean, it provides a local benefit, but it is also a road of statewide importance.
Yes.
And it serves a function that has to be recognized as well as what we're looking for as a local solution. You can't just, the county and city can't just decide what Route 29 is going to do or look like.
No.
There's somehow we have to overlay that state vision of Route 29.
And that would be part of the evaluation of whatever your smart scale application might be.
But it has to, what I'm saying is it has to happen before that. Because the smart scale application is just a request for funding to implement. This is saying that to do that, we've already gone with our comprehensive plan and put it in there. We can't put that in our comprehensive plan until the Commonwealth Transportation Board has had the chance to consider it. That's state law.
Right, but that's happening through the normal preparation and adoption of your long-range transportation plans and your fiscally constrained plans, isn't it?
Well,
isn't that where that happens?
It can be through with the work at the MPO, but there's also local governments as part of their comprehensive plan. There's this requirement that those be reviewed and accepted by the state.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to make sure I understand where this is going to show up here. In this process.
Okay, let me expand this a bit then and run it back. I got you.
And I do think it gets to be because there's also VTrans, which is the state's plan.
Yes. Right. Yes.
Which is at the higher level than what the MPO's plan will be. And this intersection is already in VTrans. It's not the detail that we'll get to. Yes, it'll be in VTrans, and then it will be in more detail in the long-range transportation plan. But I do think you bring up another good point, is that from the planning process, there may be several projects. So the intersection project is a statewide, a corridor of statewide.
Let's be careful not to call it the intersection project.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Because
that's his point.
That's it. Because there are other projects that may be applied directly from the city of Charlottesville for smart scale.
There's no question about that. But keeping it simple, for this hydraulic area, small area plan, and the phase 2 transportation planning that we're doing, if projects fall out of that you wish to submit a smart scale application for, when that smart scale application is being evaluated, it's going to be evaluated against whether or not these projects are in your local plan. Are they in you've got other work to do if we never did any of this, right? If we never met again,
Sure.
you have comp plan updates and you have other processes that are going on regardless. And I think what you're saying, Mark, is it might help to see those other processes in here as well and where they fall in.
I guess that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm still struggling with it a bit. I just want to make sure we're not missing something there.
I think it's important to make sure we're not missing something, and also important to make sure that we're not doing the comprehensive plan update as part of this work.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. We'll flesh that out. The same list. The same public input or public involvement opportunities that are around during the first phase for land use planning are available during the transportation planning, and in addition to any other individual meetings or opportunities for input that the county or the city may want to do. And while I can't necessarily assure you of who will show up, I can tell you that if you want to have a public meeting, or if the city wants to have a series of public meetings, we will be there to
very good.
support.
That was a question I had.
You're not on your own. Now, that doesn't mean we can always wheel out a consultant team of 20 people, but we will be there with appropriate support.
I was just going to say that my only comment was that the 2 public meetings was not going to be enough for Charlottesville.
We are.
Or not for Albemarle County.
We would have been surprised if. Yeah. But you're free to certainly develop your own process that we might want to append with this, and we just try to mesh it as best as we can with schedules, and the better idea we have of what you want to accomplish, we can make sure the right people are there to support you. Likewise, we can stay out of your way too, if you never know, right?
I guess just a comment maybe, with the Route 29 solutions, when we worked on that, with the area that was actually, communication was being done with was quite expansive. I mean, it went way south and way north. And I assume we're going to be doing something similar here as far as making sure the corridors.
I think, yes, and that we'll be able to flesh that out better once we get closer to, well, what is it we're talking about doing?
All right, thank you.
Yeah, we went pretty far north and pretty far south on communications first. Okay, these dates for Phase 2 are still being developed as the scope and everything comes together for the piece that Paul will be leading with the Baker team. They'll certainly participate in the charrette whenever it's held. Existing transportation conditions, starting to take a look at where things are. This will tie into some of the questions that Chuck asked sometime during the second quarter of this year. The feedback with Phase 1 team will be as often as it needs to occur. Probably the third and fourth quarter of this year, we'll start looking at some possible, transportation solution impacts. What might they look like? Depending on the development and nature of any transportation solutions that might look forward, we may have a more formal VDOT public hearing in the second quarter of 2018, and then we would be looking to wrap up probably the earlier part of the third quarter of 2018. And this will get fleshed out a little more sharper as VDOT determines the precise exact schedule for smart scale, the 2018 smart scale applications. I don't think that's nailed down yet. Oh,
They're going to, basically, the most recent thoughts on this process are they're going to start looking at opening up the portal in February, March of next year, and the application submission date would still be August 30th like it was this year. So that's not going to change. They're just going to give you more time to come in to submit your applications and put them together, give us an idea of what's coming in, and we can work with you. So we're going to probably start focusing this fall on putting those, working with localities on identifying the locations and developing applications.
But the deadline for applications would be August 30th in 2018.
It's the same as it's always been. It's going to be the same. The date, the submission date is still the same.
Okay.
Just they're going to open the portal up sooner.
Earlier.
And give us more time. And they're actually going to do it in stages. They're going to have a notice of intent early on, so you can submit your additional information, and we can look at the project, see if it's going to meet a V-Trans need, and then see if start some initial validation and coordinate with you on whether the project's worth continuing the application. And then we're going to proceed into the application development process after that in the second phase. That will be likely probably the May timeframe.
Okay. We'll probably want to hear a little bit more about that, but I don't want to let us get us too off track of phase 1 either. Now, we expect it would be, I should say it right, it would be nice if this panel stayed together through phase 1 and phase 2. If you get to the end of phase 1 and want to give up your seat, we can work that out. But our thought going in was we would form one panel, and this panel would see us through to the end of phase 2. That's what I would like to see, quite honestly. For those of you that might be watching live streaming, or those of you that on the panel that look at your look at this presentation online, which it is posted on the website. These that are underlined are links that will take you to those plans. They're, as Chuck said, and others of you are well aware, there's been a lot of work done in this area. The 29H250 study, there's a May report, and there's a September Phase 2 report. There's the Places 29 Master Plan, and anybody that's interested, if you don't want to hunt around and try to find them, if you click that link on the presentation, it will take you right there. Having a general understanding of some of that work, I think, is certainly not a bad idea. And I think the 29H250 studies are probably maybe the most relevant. Chuck, that's one of the ones you sent me early on. So I wanted you to know those are out there. I thought it was important for the public to know those are out there for any references. The public input process, redundancy sometimes has its place. But there has been some questions about these meetings, and I want to make sure we had a common understanding. While these meetings are open to the public and they're live streamed, they're not public meetings. In other words, we won't take a time out for people to sign up and make comments. That's a choice we made early on, and it's kind of served us well because it's let us focus on the work that needs to be done. But we encourage the public to make comment through all the other channels. All of these meetings are not only live streamed. The audio is available on a podcast. There's also the video that's archived, and it's all archived on VDOT's YouTube channel. And for anybody watching, or you, if you click that link, VDOT's YouTube channel will take you to VDOT's YouTube channel. Now, there's a lot of things on VDOT's YouTube channel, but every one of these panel meetings is there. So if you're ever having a real bad evening and you want to watch, they're all out there. They're all little popcorn. And
Philip, I'm guessing and assuming that just like the past 3 years, comments that are made become an agenda item.
Yes.
And they will be discussed to say, great idea, good idea, but we can't, whatever the outcome may be.
What happens is that every 2 weeks, we're constantly monitoring that kind of live channel on the website. Every 2 weeks, Lou consolidates, he gathers everything that's come through either as a website email or a phone call or an email to him or any member of the team. He gets those over to Debbie, and we kind of boil them down a bit, and then we review them at each meeting. We don't say, we don't like this comment, and throw that out. I mean, we will review them all. And sometimes those comments are like, wow, we didn't think about that. We didn't think about that. So it's a good process.
There's also a Route 29 Solutions email box on the website, so we monitor that. And when those comments are presented at the meeting, the names and identifying information is stripped out.
Right.
So,
yeah, we're not saying John Smith said. So there's no, and I think even if you sign up on the provide input, kind of the live thing, I don't know if you have to give your name or you can use a
pseudonym, shall we say, if you would.
Johnny123 or whatever. On that, well, but Lou's right. That's a good point. We're not revealing who says what. In spite of the fact that these meetings are not public meetings, There are a lot of avenues for public input, and I think this area is pretty sophisticated and has been taking advantage of those areas, those opportunities, and will continue to do so, and should continue to do so. And if we're missing something, let us know, and we'll figure that out as well. Thanks, Linda. Our meeting calendar for phase one is the second and fourth Thursday of each month. The second and fourth Thursday of each month. The dates here get us through phase one. We would love it if each panel member could attend each meeting, but you do have the option of naming an alternate. The only thing we would ask there is that if you name an alternate, just have that alternate be the other person that shows up. This was a special situation this morning with John O'Connor, and if there are special situations, we'd much rather have somebody here than not. Just what we want to try to avoid is, you know, hey, I'm Johnny, I'm here for Kurt this week. I'm Susan, I'm here for Kurt the next week. So if you'd like to name an alternate, Chuck has named one, John O'Connor has named one, Alan has named one, and that is great. You're welcome. You're welcome to do that. July, we're going to take off as far as formal panel meetings. The teams will be working. There will be a lot of work being done in July, and if that works with your summer plans, that's great. It won't mean we're not doing any work. We just won't have a July panel meeting. So those are the dates. On the website, you'll see we usually list 2 or 3 meeting dates ahead, so the public can keep track of when the meetings are. During the first part of the Route 29 meetings, those first phase one 3 years ago was really only 4 panel meetings. That panel frankly did not have the opportunity for input that you all are going to have, and I think that's a good thing. We had a pretty good group of folks at each one of those 4 panel meetings. It's obviously that's trailed off over since projects moved into construction, but the number of chairs in the room equals the number of people that the fire marshal allows to be here. So as long as there's an empty chair, if there's a backside sitting in it, we're welcome to have people come.
We do have overflow seating available down the hall.
That we can telecast the meeting in. Generally speaking, twice a month, second and fourth Thursday. I think Chip might have talked to you about that when some of you are doing double duty with the other panel for a while. But, okay, good.
The meeting is here, 2 o'clock?
The meetings will be here, Vito, yes. And I think there may have been, I heard there might have been some media trucks or something out in the parking lot this morning that may have fouled up your parking a little bit. Usually we'll have that clear and you can park right out in front of the building. If not, then I think it's not too easy to get in that back door here, is it? That basement door, you sort of have to hike back around, or Diantha probably knows better than I do.
There's a buzzer. You can
Yeah,
ring it,
okay.
The receptionist will open the door.
I did not schedule out the phase 2 meetings. I think it's good to let's get through here and then see what we want to do going forward. I think we would still want to meet at least twice a month. until recently, that hasn't seemed too often in the other Route 29 work. At each meeting, you'll have an opportunity to kind of suggest an item that you'd like to see covered at a future meeting as well. Before we adjourn, if it gets to be 4 o'clock and we're talking, we're going to stop and let everybody go home, because there's no reason to keep anybody here more than 2 hours, so that'll always be our window, 2 to 4. We've done a good job with that over the last few years. We usually do a new business and just wrap up, give everybody an opportunity to say something before we adjourn. And Alan, why don't we start with you? Any wrap up? Any comment? Any thought for something you want to make sure we focus on at a future meeting?
No, I mean, not right now. I think this is all great, getting everybody's input, and looking forward to seeing what comes out of it. And we've got a lot of work ahead of us.
Thank you. Thank you. Deb?
Looking forward to getting into.
Okay. Chuck?
The process is fine.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
Mark?
no, it's well organized, and there's a lot of work to take a look at.
Well, thanks again for making it down here. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Diantha?
Happy to get it started.
Okay. Kurt?
I echo those thoughts. Thank you.
Okay. Alex?
Well, I'm excited about the project. I've got a lot of emails from city residents.
Good.
In the project, and the emphasis has been on bike and ped and transit operations. Accommodation. So I'm glad we're going to be covering those as part of this process.
And feel free to forward those comments that you get, any emails that you get to me if you would like, and I'll make sure we have those things so that we're considering those comments as we move along. Absolutely. Thank you, Alex. Mark?
Looking forward to it.
It's good to have you, man.
Yeah, I think this is very exciting, and I think that our community, at least in the city, is extremely eager to see some positive change. And I think it's my 2 other colleagues from the city, Kurt and Alex, we'll just have to maybe put our heads together to see how we can continually get input from our communities outside of this, so that we 3 are really representative of our community. I think that's going to be my goal. And that we, we'll then sharing with everybody else, we'll be able to then go back to our community and say, well, this is why this has to happen this way. And that kind of iterative process is going to be something that I feel an enormous responsibility to do with my community.
Okay. Good. Thank you. Vito?
I have several questions and comments. One is, do you think we'd even be here if we had a big bypass, say, east of town?
I really just not the guy to answer that.
Secondly, I assume we're here because of the intersection of the 2 roads. That's the nature of why we're here, right?
That's the nature.
And you can't help but think about Rio Road, and you must have gone through some of the same issues, very simple issues, right?
Correct.
Third, when I think about land use, well, in the area we're talking about, 90% of it's developed and immense substantial buildings. And I'm anxious to learn what land use is going to mean when you already have substantial buildings. Not that you can't tear buildings down and build something different. Before I came, Robert, I would assume that the bigger issue is how to get access to a lot of these existing commercial buildings. Anyway, that's one man's observation.
Thank you. Morgan?
Like the others, I think it's a great opportunity. I'm glad we're all here. It looks like a great group. I'm just excited to try to tackle this big challenge.
I just want to say thank you to you all. I mean, it's a major commitment by all of you that are already more than full-time. So we really, from the MPO, appreciate your agreeing to serve on this. As Philip has said several times, it's the one opportunity we didn't have for Rio.
Right.
We think it turned out really, really well. So hydraulics should even be better with this opportunity. But again, we understand this is a major commitment by all of you, and we really appreciate it.
I would ask that each of you, if you're engaged in a conversation, we're not here to do the hydraulic road grade separated intersection. Now, I don't know what it might be,
Right.
and maybe that's what it might be. I don't know. But we're not here to do this project that we've got in our back pocket. That's not the objective. This is a different deal. Before, we had $200 million. It could either stay in the community or not, and there was a desire to keep it here, and we did. We did. But it would really, I would appreciate it if you could help reinforce the fact that we're starting from zero. I can't answer your bypass question. I could, but. All right, look, we're finished. Thank you. Feel free to call me or write me with any questions or any thoughts. Normally, you'll get the agenda a few days in advance, and at each meeting, we'll be telling you about what the technical teams are going to be working on in the 2-week interval between meetings. That worked well for us last time. Remember to turn right at the bottom of the hill. Or if you don't say I didn't tell you. But look, thank you very much. Thank you. See you in a couple of weeks.